This video ended up being far longer than I had originally intended. Although I believe all content is extremely important, I appreciate that the sheer length will test viewers' patience, so I have therefore timestamped the video, so viewers can skip to various sections as they see fit.
Okay guys, Dave from Pegasus here. So a second expose video on another racing tipster. So I did one of these last year with a guy called Peter Fillingham. If you haven't seen that one, I'll leave a link in the description. Quite different to this one, I would say, in the sense that I spent less time on the one last year. Sad to say that I found less wrong with the expose that I did last year from the tipster in question, but we can get onto that through this video. So yeah, this isn't going to be a fancy edited video, and it's going to be quite rough and ready. It's going to be quite long as well. There's reasons for that, and that will become vastly apparent when you watch the video if you manage to watch it through to the end. I think there's plenty of value in watching it through to the end. This is probably the most comprehensive P&L or bet tracking researching I've ever done, and that says a lot really, and it shocked me, and again that says a lot. So I had some preconceptions before I started this journey, and as I say, it's what I've unearthed has shocked even me. So yeah, how's this video going to go? Like I say, I'm going to do this in bite-sized chunks. I can't do it all in one go. There's just too much to get into, and I wouldn't do it justice by trying to rattle through it all in one go. So I'm going to do it in bite-sized chunks. I'm going to start off where I started off, which is I started tracking in November 2024. So I'm going to do the current P&L sheet first and foremost. I'm going to give an explanation of that P&L sheet, then I'm going to jump to the beginning, and I'm going to run through everything since Peter's YouTube channel started in October 2023. I've got every single bet he's put up. I've recorded all the results, all the changes he's done, the different systems he's put out. I've got everything, I believe. But a couple of things. He did a lay system for a few days, a week or something. I haven't bothered capturing that. And he did a back to lay system. And both of those they weren't worth even going into, in my opinion. They should never have even been put on YouTube. I think, yeah, we can get into that a bit later in the video as well. But yeah, be prepared. I don't know how long this video is going to be. This is the first sort of snippet of it that I'm doing. I'm going to record this over probably the course of a week. So it's the 2nd of July as it stands at the minute, 2025. As I say, this could be mid-July before I get everything put together and release it out on YouTube. So yeah, I guess I'll see you on the inside, as I say. Okay, so I've got to be careful here. There's quite a lot going on this spreadsheet, and yeah, if I'm not careful, I could bore you to tears, and it's just going to switch a lot of people off before the real good stuff starts coming in the video. But I've got to run over it briefly. So this was a sheet that I started putting together when I initially started recording the bets, and this was from the 1st of November 2024. And yeah, it started off as this sheet, and then broke into monthly breakdowns on these tabs at the bottom. So this initial sheet is just everything rolled into one. It's broken down into two formats. You've got the left-hand column here, which feeds the £40 level stakes, profit and loss, and you've got the right-hand column here, which feeds the 2% staking plan that Peter advises as part of his service. So there's two sets of figures here, both quite different, and yeah, there's just things on here. Total number of picks, winners, losers, average price. Now I took the price of every horse that Peter's advised, the advised prices, put that into an average, and yeah, 7.0, although it's in decimals, 7.0 equals 7 to 1, 5.5 equals 11 to 2, 6.5 equals 13 to 2. It's the only way I could do it to feed into some of these boxes over here. And yeah, the figures are in the top here. So these figures here are just the hard figures without the subs fees taken off, because that's something that Peter never factors into his profit and loss, is actually minusing the subscription fee off the top of that. It's a massive issue, especially when you're starting to calculate ROI, because the subs fees are part of the return on investment. It's an investment you're making. So they should be factored into the profit and loss, in my opinion, and that's something that Peter doesn't do. So yeah, there's lots and lots going on in this spreadsheet, and what I'll do is I'll do a little bit more of a breakdown towards the end of the video, and then if people want to see how the spreadsheet works, what they're looking at, they can do that, because I will leave a link for this sheet to download from the Patreon channel. Okay, so that's that. As I say, I started on 1st of November 2024. We've got monthly breakdowns here of what that looks like, starting at a £2,000 betting bank each month. Okay, so November there was a small profit. December, quite a meaty loss. Okay, especially when you take the subs fees into account as well, which is in these boxes up here. January, February, and March were phenomenal months, it has to be said. It was an unbelievable run, a sun run, if you like. That's how I would perceive it. It was really at this point where I thought I need to dig a little bit deeper here, because truth be told, you know, after a 3-month period like this, Peter's going to have to, have a horrendous run to finish in the negative for the year. He's well over, I think at one point, well over £4,000 up in total. From these 3 months played a massive part in that. April started normalising a little bit. He's done some funny stuff here with the 10% stakes. May again was a small profitable month. June has been horrendous, and we're currently in July at the minute. Just inputted yesterday's results, and yeah, I've got to wait for the third to input the second's results. I'm gonna coming back to this sheet in a bit, is just really to give you a run through. The reason why I've decided to dig a little bit deeper back is I've seen some posts, etc., since, and some claims that Peter's made on his overall profit and loss since the channel started in 2024. Yeah, so I felt the need to do a little bit of a deeper dive, if you like. So we'll come back to this sheet a little bit later in the video. I just wanted to give you a little bit of context, and yeah, a little bit of an overview as to sort of why I decided to dive a little bit deeper, and just give you a bit of context about the sheet. So I'm going to move on to the beginning, if you like. So jumping back now, and yeah, we can start to unravel a few things in this next part of the video. Okay, so the beginning. Okay, to sort of appreciate how much work's gone into this, and I'll show you the spreadsheet in a minute. It's a considerable amount of hours have gone into this. I had to go right back to the very beginning. Now, Peter's been doing tips. If you go onto his profile, click on videos, and go to oldest. This is the 17th of October 2023 is when Peter started tipping. Now, all his tips were just put on the video. They weren't recorded in the comments section underneath. So I've had to listen to every single video from October right through till January, when he started listing his horses in the comments section, or just underneath his video anyway. He started listing horses and results, etc. So for the first sort of 3 months, I had to listen to the video, take notes down of what the horses were, and then go on to the racing post, right back to that date, and get the results and manually record them that way. So this was quite a laborious task. I've listened to every single video pretty much that Peter's put on YouTube during this poll process. So yeah, yeah, you can just imagine how long this has taken, but it's proven to be invaluable. And yeah, we'll move on to the spreadsheet now. So started on the 17th of October, and yeah, I've listed the horses, the venue, the time, etc., what price it was advised at. And like the previous spreadsheet, I've set it up in exactly the same way, recording all the sort of same data for these normal picks that he was putting out from the start. So we can see in October he was putting out not too dissimilar to what we're seeing now. The sort of average prices are the same. We can see that it's just under, well, just about 4-1. Average winning price of just shy of 4.5-1. And yeah, a decent enough strike rate in October for the half month that he was active. So actually at £40 level stakes, and he wasn't charging any subs fees at this time, you would have made a profit of 466 quid. At 2% stake plan, you would have made a profit of 434.85. Now, I've included the 2% in the earlier videos, albeit Peter did not mention this until sort of December, the back end of December. So November, it's actually quite a meaty loss. At 2% sort of stake plan, it was just shy of 600 quid, and it was £550 at £40 level stakes. December, again, same thing, a loss, a bit more on the 2% staking plan, and just over 200 quid on the £40 level stakes. Now, I've put this video here, Saturday the 30th of December, and I've highlighted this in red. And yeah, I was going to download the transcripts for these and put them in there so that people could read them, but I don't know whether it could get contested. And yeah, I don't want any reasoning for the video to be taken down. So what I would urge is, anything I've highlighted in red over here, I would encourage you to go and watch those videos. And you'll get to see what I mean. But I think on the 30th of December, I think he mentioned about being in profit for the period that he's been tipping so far, and actually he wasn't. He was in profit for the first month. If you take the biggest number here, 466 quid, he's then even taking into account this loss, he's 90 quid down, wiping out all his profits for October, and then another 216 at £40 level stake. So over £300 down. But he mentioned that he'd been profitable up till now, which, yeah, just completely untrue. Now this is when it starts really getting interesting, and I say interesting, frustrating at the same time. So we get into January 2024. Okay, excuse me, and this is a substantial loss in January of £980 at £40 level stakes and just over £900 at 2% betting bank. Now, he did mention about the 2%, I think on December's video, or certainly at near the start of January. But yeah, a substantial loss. And he carried on through January. He then flipped, and he started posting lay selections in January, and then he discontinued that probably within a week or so, and then moved on to these favourites. So the 23rd of January was the start of the favourite system, apparently testing, but yeah. These experimental win bets will be main bets after just 2 days. So he'd only started it on the 23rd. He had a few winners, and yeah, these were going to be the main win bets because, as you can see, the bets he'd been putting up until then, nearly £1,000 down. Okay, so he's had a minor bit of success there with this favourite system. A few winners over a couple of days, and yeah, on the 26th of January, he announced that these experimental win bets will be main bets. from now on. He's backdated sort of 3 months worth of data, which has highlighted this angle's profitable. So he's running at the same time. He's running 2 systems still. So he's still putting out normal price, or what I'd say a normal price or bigger price selections, and he's running this favourite system. So I've captured them both here. Now, since he started the favourite system, he actually lost £26 on these selections. You'll notice I haven't put the average price in here because there are favourites. A lot 11 to 8, 13 to 8. It's just really, really difficult to put into decimals for this average price. So I haven't included that. But again, there's 3 days here where I've highlighted watch these videos because, yeah, certainly the 27th of Jan, some of the stuff he says in these videos is just absolutely ridiculous. And how you can sort of start a system after 2 days or 3 days worth of results, apparently backdating it by 3 months and then deciding to run with it is beyond me. But that's what he did. We then went into February. Now, he was still posting the normal selections. He said he was running a little bit of an experiment side by side, and he didn't expect the favourites to come out ahead of the bigger price ones. But he said he was going to run it till the end of Feb. That did not last till the end of Feb. As you can see, February was another disastrous month. He only played for 13 days in February and actually lost a total of 880 quid at £40 level stakes, a little bit less at the 2%. But of course, this is what really frustrated me, is that this was totally discarded. This was totally forgotten about. So January's poor run on the normal, 980 quid. He lost another 880 quid in Feb. December, he was down to over 200 quid. These are all at £40 level stakes, and November down 550 quid. Now, granted, he had a good October, but all of this at this point on the 14th of Feb, because he'd had a half decent run with the favourites up until the 14th of Feb, he'd had some winners, some decent days. He then decided to can the normal picks that he has been doing for the last 4 months. Started recording the profits from a positive point in January, which was, I think, probably from the 28th of January. He started recording the profits from there, and yeah, started playing the favourite system then. And this is what he quoted on his profits. Now, if we just scroll down here, I'll show you what I mean, because this went on for some 75 days or something. He started posting in his description. Where are we? And yeah, he started posting this in his description. £804 in 29 days. So this was on the 28th of Feb. So he's literally he's a little bit off, I think, as well, to be fair. But I've got him down for the favourite system in February at £928 up. So, this was showing a lot of promise. Completely canned everything else. Forgot to mention, the thousands of pounds that he was in a deficit up until this point, and started rolling with this favourite system. Okay, and he did this. He stopped putting out the bigger picks. He was rolling with the favourite system. Come March, he had a losing month. He was still promoting the figures in his description every single day until I think it was around about the 14th of April he stopped. But yeah, 74 days, 75 days, and then he stopped in April. Now, if we go back to this sheet, the April favourites, he was losing again. Again, on the right, watch these videos if you can. I've listed them here. But I have put comments where it's red in here as well. Because the favourites started going on a losing streak, so he had a losing March, a losing April. On the 14th, now the favourite bets are suspended due to underperforming. So he's back to the larger odds horses. apparently performed better during the changeover of jumps to flat. Advised not to bet these bigger price horses and no back results available. However, apparently these should work based on what Peter Fillingham has assessed in the background. Okay, very, very loose. So we go to April 24's tab at the bottom here. These are the normal price selections. So again, I've highlighted favourite bets suspended. So he started putting out the normal prices. He's had a losing period. So back to the 19th now. Great news, allegedly, I've put. The favourites are now back on. So he's back to the favourites again on the 19th. Okay. They've all lost. Okay, right down. So another week of the favourites, which are supposed to, he's back tested. It's supposed to have won. He knows what's wrong with them. Back to the favourites. Within a week, the favourites have again stopped on the 26th. And they'll be back again when they start performing. So the 26th and the 28th of April, he put out what you class as normal price picks again. Okay, and he had a couple of winning days. We then move into May. Okay, so we're at the normal prices again, ish. We get down to the 10th of May, and he's had a good run here. He has had a good run. So he finished April, sorry, I forgot to mention, he finished April on the bigger price picks at £260 in profit. In May, on the 10th of May, he announced that the new bets will go to subscription basis in 10 days' time. So this is these bets that he's only been putting out for a couple of weeks again. And because they've shown a profit, all right, he's then going to subscription based. We come down to the 19th. This is the last day that they've been put up for free, and he moves to subscription on the 20th of May. Okay, this is significant. He's already swapped and changed several times now, and he's latched onto something finally that's shown a profit, and this is what he's latched onto, I believe, to start a subscription base off the back of it. Now we'll get into a bit more context around this situation when I get further ahead in the video, but just bear this point in mind, because this is basically the time of year where he indicated on another video earlier in the year that he would potentially be looking to take subscriptions on. So he's sort of messed around, gone back and forth with different systems based on what's shown a profit within a week, and yeah, he's jumped on the back of this. So started subscriptions on the 20th of May. You don't see anything else then, other than he's gone back to the favourite system here. So back to the favourite system as free tips for YouTube. Apparently no money to be placed on these, just a watching brief. However, I have recorded these with the profit and loss regardless. So actually the favourite system, when he picked it back up in May, showed a profit of £112 to £40 level stakes. We then come to June. I don't know what happened between the 20th of May, when he started his subscriptions, to this point in June. There was a back to lay system that was implemented that he was trialing in between, and it was absolutely ridiculous. I did an interview with Grumpy, Britain's Grumpiest Old Git, and I pointed it out in that second interview that I did with Dave, and yeah, it was absolutely ludicrous. I could go into it, but I'm not going to bother because it just makes me angry. But he was doing a back to lay system that's absolutely ludicrous and would have lost people absolute fortunes if he carried it on. So he sort of, it was another thing. It was a haphazard thing that he did for a week or two, and then pulled it. I think when he realised that it was a load of crap that he was saying. So he announced on the 19th of June that he's prepared to give a few tips per day for another few days, and then the ball could be going to private members. So just following the normal price tips and the results that he started posting on his YouTube videos. So these are a mixture of free tips and member tips that he started posting the results of. So he actually had a good June. He finished £760 up. I haven't put any subs fees in there yet. And for the purpose of this sheet, I'm not including any subs fees. The June favourites, this was a roll on from the end of May. They actually lost 50 quid, but he didn't carry them on after the 5th. Yeah, just because they weren't working. He wanted to pick higher price value picks. And yeah, I've mentioned on there that he's surrounding the back to lace strategy, which I say lasted 2 weeks. It was an absolute load of tosh. But let's move on to July. So July was a particularly difficult month. He ended up losing £562. All the selections in here, etc. And I've highlighted a couple of videos that people might want to watch there. There's no more favourites after June, by the way. That system was put to the back burner, I'm presuming, and he's just concentrating on the subscriber bets. August, this is a little bit of a contentious month. This is. He actually finished the month technically £68 in profit before subs fees or anything like that. But I had this down when I checked last year. I had this down as a loss. I can't prove it, and I'll put that in here. Now, he went on holiday for a couple of weeks in August, and he said on the 16th of August video that the tips would still be getting put out to the members on the member page. However, when you look in his video description, and I think it's on the 1st of September, you can't see any selections from the 16th right up to the 25th. Now, he did a piece there where he's apparently made a tweak towards the back end of his holiday, and he started implementing that tweak on the 25th of August. As I say, you do not see any selections from the 16th, the results for those selections from the 16th through to the 25th. It's only when he's made the tweak that you start seeing the results for that. And I actually think that if I remember last year, I think there was comments in there originally and they got removed. Now, I can't prove that, so it's just a bit of conjecture at the minute, but I'm pretty confident that when I looked last year, at a point there was comments in there. They've been removed, and yeah, the selections he promised from the 16th onwards and the members, they're not recorded anywhere. He hasn't listed them anywhere. So look, let's leave him where he is. Give him the benefit of the doubt. He showed a £68 profit at £40 level stakes because he finished August up really strongly. Before that, it wasn't great at all really. But he actually finished on a loss at 2% stake plan. So yeah, August wasn't great. September, now this will just prove that I'm not being biased in any way whatsoever here. And I actually corrected Peter's figures. He's recorded himself as a loss of £213 in September. And that's stated on, I think, one of October the 1st or 2nd or something video. And he's actually recorded himself as only £213 in profit. Now, he's made a miscalculation, and I believe it's on the 20th of the 9th when he's done this, because he's either manipulated the figures and he's got lost in his own figures, but he actually makes a claim on this video on the 20th that the profit made was £413.33. And I've put it in here, yet results from the 25th of August to the 19th of September show a profit of 1,040 in that period. So he's sort of 600 quid off in his calculations for the same period that he stated. But coming towards the end of September, and I've double and triple checked this, gone back through all the videos again, he actually showed a significant profit in September of just shy of £900. Again at £40 level stakes and £965 at 2% betting bank. So yeah, I'm giving him more. I could have quite easily just been an absolute arse and recorded it at £213 because that's what he stated it's at. But actually, it was significantly more than that. So he's done himself a disservice. And this is something that he's not very good at keeping his results, and he's not very good at tallying up his figures. And it's a massive concern, because it makes me think that he doesn't bet his horses. Because if he bet his horses, he would absolutely categorically know where he was at the end of the month, because the figures don't lie in the betting account or in the in the bank account. Okay, so the fact that he's what so far off, nearly £700 off in his figures, concerns me. October, he had an absolutely abysmal start to October, and he announced on the 4th of October that he was canning it for the rest of the month, and he'd be back on the 1st of November. Okay, and then we move into November. This is on the other sheet as well, because this is when I started recording him. And yeah, November and December, that's where he was. So the reason I had to go and do this, and this is what we're going to get into in the next part, and you'll see a little tab here called Fabricated Figures. We've already highlighted some of the issues throughout this sheet around the swapping and the changing to various systems. Whatever's a flavour of the week, really, whatever's showing a profit, that's what you'll move to. There's no consistency there. That's not a professional at work. Okay, that's someone clutching at straws, in my opinion. But again, we can identify that in this next video clip that I'm going to do. But I just thought I'd take you through the entirety of when he started till the end of 2024, and yeah, you'll see why this is important when we move on to the next video. So yeah, I'll see you in the next one. It'll be instant for you, but it's probably going to be a couple of days' time for me. Okay, so look, we've been over 2023, 2024, month by month, and we've been over some of the shenanigans, shall we say, that went on during that time. Some quite heavy losses, and the fact of only concentrating on positive stats, a bit of recency bias, etc. This is where we really start getting into the nitty gritty, and this is where I guess for a lot of people there's going to be some shocks here, people that wouldn't be expecting this. Now, it really came to my attention, shall we say, September last year. Now, someone actually messaged me, someone who followed my channel, but they messaged me just with concern, really, and yeah, they forwarded me an email trail. Now, they reached out to me just saying that, followed your channel, blah, 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 blah. You seem to be above board. Hopefully I am. But yeah, he'd reached out to Peter and basically asked for a profit and loss. He said that he's got 3 services. He ditched one of them and he's looking to take on a new subscription-based service. And, he was interested in Peter's service, seemed to think he was genuine, etc., etc. And yeah, he's detailed here, what the response he got. So he'd reached out to Peter on the 12th of September, Thursday the 12th of September. And I've blacked out this guy's details because after this, I did reach out to him just to see if he'd followed up on anything. He never really got back to me, so I don't know whether he followed up on my advice and questioned Peter some more or not. But look, basically, he's explained here that, Peter's service seems to fit in with his current strategy, staking, etc., etc. So he's asked him if he keeps detailed records, could he provide these details, or does he proof his selections to an external source that he could check? And Peter responded on the same day, in the evening, to say, "Hi, so and so, I don't keep results spreadsheets because few people trust them. They're so easy to fake. Nor do I use a proofing service because everything is there for all to see on YouTube. However, to save you trawling back, average profit since I started on YouTube 10 months ago has been 13.3 points per month." Okay, so this is stating from the start of his YouTube journey, up until I'm presuming August, because this was sent in September and September hasn't been finished yet. He is saying that in 10 months he's averaged 13.3 points profit per month. Now, I've made that calculation here. 13.3 points profit over 10 months. Okay, a total of £5,320 profit is what he's claiming he's made in that time. Now, that's a far cry from what we're seeing in reality. This is everything he's put on YouTube, which is stated here. And if we take this all the way down, including the favourite system, everything that he's put on, okay, down to August, he actually made a loss of £813.95. And he's claiming that he made £5,320 based on 13.3 points average per month. Okay, so that's the first lie. Now, when this was sent to me, as soon as I saw that figure, and I think the guy who sent it in, yeah, he's a bit off with some of the calculations he makes. He'd gone back and actually had a look through some of Peter's videos now. Look, it's an absolute maze. Okay, it took me hours upon hours upon hours to decipher through and put it all together. So anybody normal trying to look through all that and break it down, I can understand why his figures might be a little bit off. But he's basically pointing out that there's no way from what he could see that these figures were genuine. And yeah, it raised a massive red flag for me at the time. Yeah, it's just absolute fabrication. Now, it gets even better than that. We then come to this one. Now, this was in May this year, May 2025. One of Peter's followers at Lay Down Lays. What profit did you finally get in 2024? To then Peter's turned around and said was a little over 6k. I think it was £6,216. Are you joking? Seriously? Even if we just take 2024, forget the back end of 2023, just 2024, we come down, we encompass everything. Okay, he made a loss of, says here, £356 or £355.85. Okay, and yeah, that's not including December. So if we put that in there, that's encompassing the whole lot of October 2023. But yeah, just 2024. This is not taking into account subscription fees either, which actually started at £85 when he started his subscriptions in May, and in June he dropped it down to 50. So we're probably 400 quid or so extra on top of this for subscription fees, but it was actually a loss of £355.85, and he's saying that he made £6,216. Even if we take every positive month, forget the negatives, we just take the positives for 2024, okay, that only totals £3,681. Where's the other £2,600 coming from? And that, as I say, that's not taking into account any of the losses. Now, I know Peter doesn't like to count the losses, it seems, but absolutely fabricated beyond belief. Two massive lies there, and this is a massive red flag. It's just complete fabrication, and you probably see I'm getting annoyed at this because this is one of my pet hates, especially from someone who's got a following like Peter has. He's got a subscription base that he charges money for, and this is the sort of stuff that he's putting out. I don't know whether he believes this. Whatever, it's just ridiculous. You can see clearly from all the results that I've recorded, he's in a loss for the year. If you take 2023, he's in an even bigger loss, and that's not even counting the subscription fees. So, yeah, absolutely undeniable. This is what he sent. This is a proof. So you're seeing it for yourself that he's a liar on two occasions here, and multiple occasions otherwise as well, because there are other people who've who've asked him this question. And yeah, it goes even deeper down the rabbit hole in a second. And yeah, that's going to be on the next clip. But this is really, really important to highlight. And I'll leave this in the spreadsheet as well. You can download this spreadsheet from the Patreon. I'll include this as well, just so you can see for yourself. But I thought this was absolutely, needed to be highlighted. That is just completely fabricating his figures, and the only reason he could be doing this on both accounts is to try and entice people into joining his service and paying him money. Okay, because if he actually posted the actual figures that he lost, and I don't even think he keeps these records, to be honest, he can't do. But if he actually posted, who's going to join him when he's at a loss for 2024? But then he's saying he's actually £6,200 up. This person here, hopefully he didn't join his service because he's been absolutely duped. It's fraudulent. This is fraudulent on both counts here, and by his own writing. And yeah, he's duping people into buying into his lies, and joining his service and paying him money. Anyone else who's viewed his comment section as well might not have asked the question, but they've definitely seen this. They could have been duped into it. It's disgraceful and disgusting. And yeah, you probably, for people who perhaps follow Peter for a long time and you perhaps like him, this should really, really put a red flag, and yeah, make you question where your loyalties lie, in my opinion. So as I said, we're going deeper down the rabbit hole now. This goes much, much deeper than this. I'll see you on the next video. Okay, so I'm going to try and do this bit justice all in one take, and there's quite a lot of content here, and I'll warn people now that some of this is perhaps going to go above people's heads, but all I would say, if you don't quite get it or it gets a little bit confusing, then perhaps pause the video, go back, yeah, just take your time with this bit, because it really is quite interesting and yeah, quite eye-opening. So for this part of the video, we have to go back initially to an interview that Peter did with Dave from Britain's Grumpiest Soul Git, and I think this was on the 5th of February 2024. And yeah, he was the first person. Dave did a few of these Q&As with various tipsters. Peter was the first person on there to do one of these, and there's some really, really interesting facts that came out of this. So what I'm going to do, I'll leave the link to this video, today's video, in the description, and I'll also list the times of within the video that I'm going to highlight here, because I have made some notes, and it will become apparent after I've gone through these points for the next part that I'm going to show you. Okay, so the first little sort of thing that I picked up on, and it's neither here nor there, I guess, but yeah, just me and my OCD, I guess. Peter's talking about when he first sort of got into horse racing. He said his dad had introduced him. They used to go to the races. He was about 12 years old, etc. They used to grab the racing post and pick out the horses, etc. I'm presuming that he means a sporting life, because Racing Post wasn't founded until, I think it's 1986, if memory serves. It's 85, 86 anyway. So the Racing Post definitely wouldn't have been around when Peter was 12. The Sporting Life, however, is probably the oldest racing newspaper. So yeah. Anyway, right, that's that point aside. At 10 minutes 30, and this goes on for 3 or 4 minutes, he's going through saying that basically horse racing was basically a side interest for him. He used to bet small stakes. He was never really devoted to it during his career. And yeah, he talks a little bit about his career later in the video. But he said until he retired, and even when he was retired, he still only really bet a few quid on horses that he picked out. Apparently, he had quite a bit of success, and people were sort of asking him what to bet on, etc. And yeah, he decided after he retired 18 months later, he set up his tipping service, which was Equestrian Risk Management Syndicate, and I'll bear that in mind for later. Yeah, he then talks a bit about his members. So apparently, at this point, he has got a full sort of clientele base of members. They're old. They're on the older side, and he says that he's got this service. He's not taking on any new members at the minute, because his clientele base is full, and he's nearly hitting the VAT threshold. Again, that's something you need to bear in mind. At 24 minutes in the video, he then chimes out that apparently his YouTube tips are not the same as his paid subscribers' tips. At no point, let me make this very, very clear. At no point when Peter started this YouTube journey in October 2023, right through to December, until he mentioned that he had a subscriber base, which I think was sometime in January, or the end of December, but until no point did he mention, and even then he didn't mention really, that these tips that he was giving out were the dog shit that he didn't give to his members. He didn't even mention that he had a subscriber base during these first few months on YouTube, and you can go back and watch the videos. It's only really when it came to January, towards the back end, he mentioned then about, his members get different tips, etc., and these tips that he's putting out are basically the dog shit. They're the leftover bets. Yet he still bets them with full confidence. Bear this in mind. He is still allegedly staking these horses at £40 a stake, even though they're not the premium bets that he gives to his members, etc. So it's worth bearing that in mind. Now back to this video. He also mentions during this time period that he's currently running the favourite system, which he started at the back end of January, and he was trialling it against the tips that he was still giving out. So bearing in mind this is February, and he mentions there that he's going to run this till the end of Feb. He doesn't expect the favourite system to outperform the normal bets that he's putting out, but he'll see. And again, halfway, sort of 9 days later after this interview, he scraps the normal bets altogether, and goes with the favourite system, because actually they're having some success. So he just scraps everything previously. The system that he didn't expect to outperform, he just goes with that straight away and scraps everything else that he's been doing for the last few months. I don't want to highlight too much on this spreadsheet because we've already been through it. Okay. At 35 minutes, this is something that really sort of made me laugh. He just talks briefly for about 30 seconds on this, and he's given his expert opinion on, David asked him, do you prefer flat or jumps and everything else, and he's talking through. And Peter's sort of comment with regards to national hunt horses is, of course, all national hunt horses start on the flat as 2-year-olds and work up to becoming jumps. Well, any national hunt diehard fans there will probably get very angry at that comment, because you couldn't be further from the truth, could you? So this is a horse racing allegedly expert, saying that all national hunt horses start as 2-year-olds on the flat, and that's how they've got more experience. Not quite the case. Very few horses actually start on the flat and come over to jumps. It's getting more prevalent as the years have gone on, but still, the biggest majority, I would say 90+% of the horses national hunt start as national hunt horses. They either start out in point-to-points, bumper races, then move on to hurdles, etc., and fences, dependent on skill level. but very, very few horses transition from flat to jumps. As I say, it's getting more prevalent, but Peter's view was that all national hunt horses start on the flat. So, yeah, a bit of a question mark with regards to that comment. Then at 35 minutes 50, just after, he describes his career as a graphic designer / in advertising. Never gambled much, was a weekend punter, the odd fiver. We sort of mentioned that before. He never really took it that seriously until he retired, and even then he was only betting a few pounds. Then at 41 minutes past, it's quite a long rant this is, to 48 minutes. He starts talking about his profits over the years since he started the service. He said the first 2 years didn't really make or lose anything, and then started making a profit every year thereafter. Only had 1 or 2 months a year where he lost, very small losses of £150 or so a month. The remainder of the months were between £500 to £700 profit per month. It all sounds fantastic, doesn't it? He then goes on to talk about losing runs. Normally sort of 8 or 9 losing bets is the norm, but has known it to be as much as 18. Well, we've seen quite a few times that since that interview, he's had in excess of 20, 26, 27 losers on the trot, even up to 30 on my spreadsheets anyway, technically. Yeah, and then at 51 minutes 40, he was asked, "Do you see yourself as a pro gambler?" To which he was very hesitant about calling himself a pro gambler. He said he was more like a pro tipster. Yeah, he's, as I say, I will leave those timings in the description. But moving on from that, appreciate I've just rattled through that, but we've got some points to go through here. So, Peter's website is Equestrian Risk Management Syndicate.com. Okay, we can see that. I found it very difficult to find references of this in his comments section, but there is one from Saturday, 1st of June 2024. So this just proves that this was Peter's company and this was his website. So there's a really, really interesting site here, and it's called the Internet Archive. Now this is Google's Internet Archive, and what it does is throughout time it will take snapshots at certain points in time over years for certain websites. So if there's a really, really old website, for example, this will have picked up various snapshots over the years, and it can range from a few pages in the database to multiple pages. So let's have a look here. Oh, missed out a W there. Okay, so this is very, very interesting because we've got no snapshots before 2021. But let's take a look at July 22nd, 2021. Now, if we go here and click on this snapshot, this is a snapshot of Equestrian Risk Management Syndicate's homepage on July 22nd, 2021. Who the hell is Matthew Miles Racing Limited? Okay, now look at the description on here. We aim to make £700 profit a month using £40 stakes. It's £85, which the subscription was for Peter's service. Average horse is around 4 to 1. Is this familiar as well? So you used to get a free trial on here for 30 days. When I send your free trial password for my tips webpage, I'll also send you the formula I use to generate my daily horse racing tips. Does that sound familiar? It's only a couple of weeks ago he released a system on YouTube. Who knows? Is it the same? Is it the same system? Who am I? My name is Matthew Miles. I've been running this business for nearly 14 years. Just Google Matthew Miles Racing Limited. I did Google Matthew Miles Racing Limited, and sod all came up. Now, what I don't know, this is definitely Peter's site, 100%. It's got Ingalls Manor, Castle Mill, exactly the same address, everything else, the same date that Equestrian Risk Management was registered as an official limited company. So this really confused me. Now, the only sort of explanation I can have in my head is, was Peter using another name? Was he part of a tipster platform or something like that, and using another variation of a name, not his own? But I can't explain this. That's up to him to explain. But this is his website. This is a snapshot of his website on the 22nd of July 2021. So let's move on to 2022. And we'll go to the 17th of January 2022. Now we come on, exactly the same wording, everything's the same, still offering a 30-day free trial, an average of 4 horses a day. He's not offering a system though with his free tips anymore. But now his name's Peter Fillingham, been running this business for 15 years. Everything else is the same. Now, what I want to highlight here is previously I made a full-time living backing horses, but it's difficult to get a mortgage or be taken financially seriously without a proper business. So I formed this limited company and began my tipping service. Exactly the same message that was on before. However, cast your mind back to what we've just been through on the viewers section Q&A. He said quite clearly that he just took it as a side interest before he retired, and even then he was only betting a few pounds, and his career was as a graphic designer stroke advertising. So what is it, Peter? Were you a graphic designer, an advertiser, or were you a full-time punter backing horses? You couldn't get a mortgage. Well, I'd find it difficult to get a mortgage probably anyway, given you're retired. So, yeah, there's a massive red flag there. He's lying about his past and his experience in terms of backing horses. This carries on. Let's go back here. So that's 2022. We come to July 2022. And I noticed that the timings are changing here. He's gone from 9:30 in the first one to then 10:30 or 11 o'clock. Now it's 12 o'clock sharp every morning. Still the same message from here. He's just got a sign up form, basically, for them to put their details in. But everything's still the same on there. Okay, let's go to 2023 then. So this is when he started his YouTube channel. Now his website wasn't up and running at this point here in October. He started his YouTube channel on 17th of October 2023. Now if we look at the web archive snapshot, his website was down. He was obviously setting up a new website or a domain through wix.com, I presume. And that is the same for the end of October. We have to then come to the 25th of December. Now this is just before he mentions on YouTube about his equestrian risk management system, syndicate, website and everything else. He hasn't mentioned it up till this point, but he's got the same sort of designed website. However, his front page now has gone from subscription base, £85 a month, etc., to now free horse racing tips, 10:30 each morning, 7 days a week on YouTube. Exactly there. At no point does he say, in fact, he's slating favourites here, but at no point does he say here that the tips that he's putting out on YouTube are second-rate tips. He does mention that he's got many private clients apparently, but at no point on here either does he mention that the tips he's giving out on YouTube are sort of second-rate tips, if you like. And again, he's introduced this is his dad's sort of wise talk to him, if you like. And yeah, various other things. So he's changed the front page of his website. He's added all this waffle here. The man who won too much. I'll be honest, I really think this is a lie. I don't think anyone's won too much with following Peter's advice. But that's just my opinion. Okay, so that's 2023. 2024, very much the same in April. Still the sort of same page. Then in June, he's back. He's just saying it's £700 a month. It's now private, subscription only. And yeah, he's kept this sort of same waffle on his page. And August the 18th, this is quite interesting. He's back now, saying from £500 to £700 a month. From a straight £700 a month, it's now from £500 to £700 at £40 stakes. And is that because he hasn't been making as much over the previous months, as per I've already shown on the sheet? Big red flags here, and what I would say is if we go back to not only the 2021 where there's Matthew Miles on there, but it's really this 2022 and his sort of depiction of his experience and what he did for a living, etc. Yeah, he did well. Unless he's lying to Dave on the interview, he was never a full-time punter back in horses. Not once has he ever mentioned that on his YouTube videos or anything else. He only really started betting when he retired, and even then, by his own admission, it wasn't for very much at all. So this is a blatant lie, and many people do this to fool people, to make people think that they're professional punters, and they've made a living out of it and everything else. It's basically to get them to trust them, for make them seem more legitimate. Why lie? Okay, that's a really big red flag here. What happened to all these members as well? So the video he mentioned that he was fully subscribed. He was hitting the VAT ceiling, which even at that time would have been probably 75 grand. I think it's gone up to 90 grand now. Now, I'm not going to go too much into this, but if you just do a quick Google search of Equestrian Risk Management Syndicate Limited on Companies House, click on that, click on the filing history, click on confirmation statements and annual returns, and just have a look for yourself. I'm not going to open these up. I'm not going to go through them. At no point in any annual return from 2007, when he started his company, has he came anywhere close to hitting a VAT ceiling. Okay, most years he's making a few grand, that's what he's reporting. And one year, I think maybe 2011, something like that, 2000, he made something like 11 grand. Okay, every other year, as I say, I'm not going to go into this and highlight it. If he's got something else going that he's not declaring, or he's getting his subscriptions through another sort of company or whatever, I guess that's his business. But he said on Dave's interview that he wanted to set this company up because he wanted to do everything legitimate, and he didn't want to do anything underhand. Well, if what he's saying is true and he's hitting the VAT ceiling every year, it's not showing in his annual reports at all. And just for recent clarity, he's now dissolved this company. That's proposal to strike off as of this year, and his website as well is no longer is no longer in service. So this website has now gone down. That'll roll around for a little bit to just say that it's not in service, but he's took his website down. He's closed his limited company this year, and yeah, I don't know where his subscriptions are going, how he's sort of reporting that. That's his business, but yeah, it's just worth noting that there's no way from his annual reports that he was hitting the VAT ceiling. Plus, on none of his videos in the comments section, let's just be clear on this. And none of his videos in the comments section did he get any. Was there any comments ever saying, "Yeah, I've been with Peter for years," you know, and testimonials to say, you know, he's a real deal and everything else. I get the fact that he said that a lot of his subscribers are older, but are you telling me that he must have what to hit the VAT ceiling at 85 quid a month? You probably got to have at least 60 to 70 subscribers. Are you telling me that all of them are not internet savvy? Are you telling me that all of them don't go on his YouTube channel? Why as well weren't his subscribers, you know, piping up about his website and everything else? It's just really strange. And let's be honest, there's only one conclusion in my mind. They just didn't exist to begin with. Okay, it's all make believe, this is. And again, even when he went live in June, in May, in the middle of May, he went live, picked up this subscription service. It was only ever supposed to be for a few openings, to not hit this VAT ceiling and everything else. This crap that he's on about. But yeah, whatever happened to his 85 followers? Or sorry, his previous subscribers that were paying £85 a month. Whatever happened to them? We never heard of them after this. So it's like, did they all just disappear? I know he said there was a couple that had ill health. Did they all die? We just never heard of it. And again, I know a few people have brought this the company's house thing up, etc. As I say, I'm not digging deep into it and showing it. People can go and look for themselves. People have brought that up before, and pointed it out. So it's nothing new. But these are pertinent points, and yeah, it just completely blows everything in my mind. What he said on this interview to Dave, the facts that I've just shown you there, just blow that out of the water, and it proves him to be a liar in my opinion. Unless there's some miracle, legitimate answers that he can provide for what I've just pointed out, then he's a liar, and they're quite big lies, to be fair. And I feel sorry for Dave, because Dave stood on for Peter quite a lot when Peter's came under fire a lot last year. Dave's came on YouTube and really stood on for Peter, stood in his corner because he believed in him and he trusted him. And he's fed him a pack of lies on this interview. And yeah, I feel quite sorry for Dave, but I'm sure Dave will look at this himself and make up his own mind. But yeah. Okay, I will touch upon a few other things, I think, and then move, well, in the next video, and then move on to 2025's P&L. This video is good. The whole video is going to be extremely long, so yeah, they're the most important parts, and you know, really digging down the rabbit hole, going to this Wayback Machine. It's an absolutely fantastic resource, to be fair, but it just goes to show people can't hide their digital footprint on the internet. It's there for everybody to see. And yeah, you can delete your web page, you can change your web page, you can change your story, but certainly with things like this, he's been caught out. His narrative has changed and his lies have been exposed. So yeah, I'll leave a link for this in the description as well, of the video. The final leg. Appreciate anybody who's made it to this far. look, it's I can appreciate it's probably a bit of a slog, but look, everything I've highlighted up until now absolutely needed to be pointed out and needed to be said. I feel anyway. Um, but yeah, look, we're on the final leg now. So I think I highlighted before um, earlier in the video or at the start that yeah, I started tracking Peter in November 2024, and yeah, for this spreadsheet, I'm just going to keep it the same. Um, and yeah, we'll take a quick look through. I'm not going to go into deep depths in each one. I'm just going to point out a few things that I think are worth mentioning. So November 2024, okay, slightly profitable month when we take subs fees into account at 2% variable state plan, which is what he advises, and really is the figures that people should be going by. He actually only finished just over 63 quid up for November, but a profit nonetheless. December, he finished 660 quid down with the subs fees taken into account. Now, both months, look at the average advised price that he was giving out. Okay, just over 11 to 2 in November, between 11 to 2 and 6 to 1 in December. Now we come to January. January, February, March was a particularly good run for Peter. I call it a sun run. It was phenomenal by all accounts, but nonetheless, he made a statement on one of his videos that he'd made a tweak to his system. This is one of multiple tweaks that he makes all the time, but he called this the fiddle factor, and he went on to do an explanation of this, that he basically, you know, he can see from Betfair and stuff like that, and he can make an assessment and identify horses that are going to get gambled on, etc. Basically, fiddle horses by connections. Now, I actually spend a lot of time on the exchanges, and yeah, I brought up my trading software, and I monitored this for probably about a week or so, and it was only on the free tips that Peter gave out every day. And yeah, I looked at these horses on the exchange within the trading ladder, so I can see all the money that's built up either side, and yeah, I can see how much has been matched on the horses, etc. And at no point during this period of time that I monitored did I see anything that indicated that these horses were potential gamble horses, where there was loads of money, you know, sat in the book waiting to get matched, or tons of money had already been matched. Admittedly, on a couple of them, there was, you know, they were second favourites and they'd had more money traded on them or matched than the favourites. But even so, it was only a couple of £100 at the max. Nothing was stood out as out of the ordinary. So yeah, I'm not so sure that the fiddle factor, as he called it, was anything more than a bullshit factor, to be fair. But those average prices start coming into effect. So what I said there, between 11 to 2 and 6 to 1, they actually dropped down massively, and they've stayed consistent now at this level, at and around this level now. They've dropped by almost 30%. Okay, from November and December down to 4 to 1, just under 4 to 1. 4 to 1, just over 7 to 2. Again, just over 7 to 2. It's been between this and 4 to 1 since the start of January. Now, to be fair to Peter, he's always stated, you can see even on his website before that we went through, he's always stated average prices of around 4 to 1, etc. So yeah, I just thought it was worth highlighting that the average prices massively dropped coming into January, but they have stayed consistent ever since. Now, as mentioned, January, February, March, absolutely phenomenal performance here. It's got to be said, and yeah, I would hazard a guess to say that this is probably Peter's best ever sun run, because I haven't seen many like this, if at all. It really took me by surprise, and had this not happened, I would have happily released a video after 3 months of my findings and gone from there. I wasn't intending on doing the in-depth stuff that I've ended up doing, but it was only because of this, and it really sort of raised my suspicions as to say, yeah, is it anything more than just a sun run? And I wanted to see how things played out with Peter, how he sort of promoted this and everything else, which led me to start going down the rabbit holes. But that aside, look, January 2,700 or £2,664 after subs at 2%. February £842 after subs. March £1,262 after subs. Absolutely phenomenal figures. And yeah, it's quite impressive, to be honest. The strike rate's up at around about to 30% almost, as an average across those 3 months. Absolutely phenomenal for the average prices that he was putting out. So yeah, look, hats off, fantastic performance. We then come to April, and this was a bit of a slap back to reality in April. And yeah, I actually joined the service in April. I wanted to test it out. So I paid my subs fee, I joined the service. I just wanted to test it out. I inevitably joined, which is sod's law really, on a losing month. He was due it. It came. I think that when he reduced his stakes to 10% towards the back end of the month, he blamed the changeover month for this. However, in March, he said that he'd found a way, he'd looked over previous years and he'd found a way that he could make it profitable in April. That proved not to be the case. And when he started losing in April, okay, I believe this reduction down to 10%, in my eyes, it's ridiculous, it's unnecessary. You stick to your system basically. You either put bets out, don't put bets out at all if you're not comfortable. But reducing to 10% stakes is not the way to go, in my opinion. It shows that it shows panic. I think he wanted to protect profits and wanted to save face a little bit, and he actually deserted. He just no sort of warning at all. On the 22nd, he just announced that that's it. I'm on holiday now, till the end of the month. And yeah, I thought that was a bit poor for anybody who joined that month. I thought that was a bit poor that he hadn't sort of pre-announced this. It wasn't a pre-planned holiday, or it didn't seem so anyway. He just decided that's it, I'm taking a week off. Look, I requested a refund. When he came back off holiday, that refund was processed. So from that perspective, he's true to his word, or that's what I found anyway. He's true to his word. He refunded the full month subscription. And yeah, look, this 10% stuff carried on into May, but actually May ended up very small profit, £54. June, this is when things start getting a little bit interesting, I guess. Now, I want to highlight more towards the end. He's had an absolute shocker in June. From a losing run perspective, it's actually down 27. That's from the 16th. He didn't have a winner from the 16th right through to the 29th of June. He's started panicking again, in my opinion, towards the back end. And yeah, he started giving tips, but advising no money. Then he's gone back to what he was doing last year, value favourites and really short price runners. Again, another 5 value favourites. This is desperation. Again, I'll highlight that in my opinion. This is to try and just get some winners on the board, which is amateurish. It really is amateurish. If you haven't got anything decent worth putting out, don't put any selections out. Don't panic and try and do this just to get horses out. But yeah, look, June was a particularly bad month. I had to correct him on his figures for June as well, because he was a fair way out with his profit and loss figures for June. Now, one thing I want to highlight here, in June, the 7th of June, and take you to this video, and this is Peter. He makes some wild claims in this video about how you can build a bank with smaller stakes, following him, and just let the profits build up, and then you can start increasing your stakes. He then also said, because they were, almost £4,000 up at this point, from the 1st of January, that we can expect towards the end of the year that we finish on £8,000. this, I could have, he said things like this before, he's made wild claims before, stupid comments before, and I've bit my tongue. I just couldn't bite my tongue any longer on this. So in the comment section, I won't go through it all. I challenged Peter on this, and yeah, I asked him to, where's the stats to back this up, what you're saying, etc. He then sort of skirted round what I'd highlighted, and he gave me a list of profits so far this year, and I challenged him back, saying appreciate that, but you've been highlighting that all year, etc. And yeah, I did sort of go in hard with him here, around his claims, etc. And not for the first time, when someone who's got a little bit of clout, or not necessarily clout, but a little bit of knowledge, and pushes him on some of the stuff he says, and sort of exposes some of the chinks. He can get quite shirty, Peter has, and I've seen this before in how he responds to people, and I got this. So yeah, it's just, I've got better things to do than debate with you at length. Well, I'm fairly confident that you'll lose that debate. You would have lost that debate anyway, because you haven't got the answers. And he just says that everyone will have their own opinion. He's relying on people not challenging him. And when people do say negative things sometimes and challenge him, the comments get deleted. And I have seen that quite a lot. So he doesn't like people highlighting. Now, I actually exposed myself here, because I was flicking around between my YouTube handle, which is this one, and my personal, and I put these questions out on my personal profile, because I thought if I do it on my YouTube handle, I might get different responses. So I wanted to see how much I could push him, and see if he actually had the stats that I had in the background, so that I could verify them, and he didn't. And I've got multiple examples that I could show, that he doesn't know his figures. He does not know his figures at all. But I obviously have my sheet in the background, so I know exactly where he's at. But yeah, I accidentally exposed myself here with my YouTube handle. So look, I didn't intend to do that. I would have rather kept it with my personal handle. But yeah, look, I had to try and style it out, and at that point I let him know that I was sort of doing a video in the background, and yeah, I'd be releasing my findings. So interesting watch, Saturday the 7th of June this year. Go and have a watch of that video. You'll see exactly what I'm saying and what I'm going to highlight now on this sheet. So I did a bit of work in the background after that video, and I wanted to prove that his claims are absolutely ridiculous. Okay, in that you can successfully build a bank following him, paying his monthly subs fees, and build a bank on £2 stakes, on £5 stakes, on £10 stakes. He's made these claims more than once. So I actually did this work based on the figures that I've captured here, month by month. Had you started off at these stakes, these lower stakes, this is a bank you would have based on a 50-point bank, which is what he has, 2% of your betting bank. And yeah, you can see, depending on which month you started, you can actually see that, if you'd started in November on £2 stakes, you would have wiped your bank out, more than wiped your bank out in the first 2 months, £100 betting bank. And you would never ever be in a positive position from then, even with the sun run in January, February, March. Actually, at £2 stakes in February, where everything else, including quite a healthy, 2% at normal stakes of a £2,000 bank, you actually showed a loss at £2 stakes in February, based on the 2% variable staking. Sorry. And yeah, very minimal profit in March, even though everything else was phenomenal. And yeah, you would be at a massive loss right now. And the same with the £5 staking. You would have, if you joined in January, you would have, yeah, you could have doubled your bank and went on. But look, you quickly, when you start losing, it rapidly wipes that out, and you're back down to your previous stake again. And then you're doing that journey all over again. It's really, really difficult, as you can see, unless you're consistently profitable month after month. And when you do have a losing month, it's not a massive losing month, then you've really got to take these subs fees into account because they massively eat into your profit. At £2 stakes, that's 25 points profit you've got to make just to make your subs fee. At £5 stake, that's 10 points profit you've got to make just to break even on your subs fee before you start making profit. 5 points at £10 stakes. Now that's a little bit more easier to swallow. But you can clearly see here, up until this point now, exactly where you would be. Now, if you're starting off at £20 stakes, then you're in a healthy position, ish. But yeah, it's massively disingenuous. He promotes his stuff to try and sell his product and get people on board, and thinking, oh, you don't need to be betting. You don't have to need to have £2,000 betting bank. Actually, looking at this, you probably do need a minimum of at least 1,000, and you need to be a minimum betting £20 stake. Once you're taking the £50 membership fee into account, etc. And I don't think he's ever going to see months like January, February, March again. Not in succession. He might have profitable months, but this has all got to be taken into account. There's nothing in the evidence we've seen up to now, especially last year, that suggests he can make anywhere near the profits that he's claiming he can make. Now, again, this video is getting long. Here's another thing. Now, I emailed him back in May, and I asked him a question in and around what's the difference this year between your level stakes and your daily variable stakes. Okay, and I already knew, obviously, but I wanted to test just to test my suspicions, and his figures were massively out. Okay, and interestingly, I want you to note this figure. Look at the difference between these two figures here. Okay, so at level stakes 1904.66, at daily variable, allegedly he's saying it's £1,984.65. Okay, now let's have a look at January. All right, he's not quoting those figures with subs fees. His actual variable stakes profit was £2,714. How are these figures so different? Okay, he was out again in February. In February, he's saying the variable stakes were 857. Okay, it was actually 892.60. It's not massively out, but still out. The same in March. He was about 150 quid out in March, 130 quid out in March, something like that, against what it was. He was under. And April's loss again. When we look at April, his actual loss was £409.3 at 2% variable stakes. This is a point I want to make though. If you take the difference between the two figures for each month and split that as a percentage, every single month it works out to be around 4.2%. Okay, difference. Every single one of these, you can go. I'm not going to bring a calculator up, but go and do it. Okay, work it out. You'll see that it's 4.2%, just over 4%, 4.2%, I think. Now, that's statistically impossible to start with. Okay, that each month, bearing in mind you've got a 2% variable staking plan. Okay, so stakes are up, profits are different each month, etc., etc. It's statistically impossible. Okay, for 4.2% difference each and every month, no matter whether it's winning month, losing month, etc., etc. Okay, this suggests to me that he's just put an arbitrary percentage figure of 4.2% into a calculator and worked out the difference, because there's no way that you could be out every single month if you are tracking and betting to 2% daily variable. He's never got his figures right. Even in June, I had to correct him on it. He's never got his figures right, what he's reporting here. Okay, and there's another guy who, again, asked him this question. I think it was last month in June, and he's asked the exact same question here. Plan of 2%, is it better than level staking? Hi, 2% daily variable staking has worked out at 4.2% more profitable than level stakes. So again, he's quoting this 4.2%. It's completely fictitious. It's not accurate at all. It's, and as I've said, it's impossible to have the same bloody difference in split each month. It's just not feasible. He does not record. He does not know where he is with his figures. Now, how can you take a man like that seriously? I seriously believe, and there's lots of things to suggest this. The rule fours that he misses out, and I've highlighted this. Anything highlighted in red here, I've made a comment for a reason. And there's quite a few times he's missed rule fours out, for example, and he's had people challenge him and pick him up on it. And I do not believe that he bets these horses that he tips out. I don't believe he bets them, because if he did, there's no way he could make mistakes like he has. And being so much out. I mean, January he quoted 1900 and something, 65 quid or something like that, and he's actually 2,700. That's not a small sum. It's not a few quid. That's £700. It's actually, the difference is not 4.2%. It's actually bloody like 33% or something like that. It's around about the 30% mark. It bewilders me, and there's multiple sort of things of that like I've just highlighted. Yeah, these are massive red flags, massive red flags, and everybody should take note of this. Okay, it doesn't matter whether you think he's a nice guy or not. These are massive red flags, and he doesn't, in my opinion, he's fumbling his way through this. If he gets challenged, he hasn't got the answers. He hasn't got the statistics to back up some of the wild claims that he makes. He's talking recently about comparing his sort of service to a hedge fund and in the stock market and everything, and how you can make so much more. £6,000 a year with him. Where's the stats to back this up? Now, clearly, he stated he made £6,000 last year, but as I highlighted earlier, he was actually at a loss for last year. Complete fabrication, complete lies. So where's the stats to back up? And this horse racing is completely different to investments in the stock market. Any person should really understand that. And it's not, yeah, they're just worlds apart. I'm not even going to go into detail, because I could literally talk for ages on this subject. He's bumbling along. He's lying. He's making wild claims, unsubstantiated. His figures are way out. He doesn't know where he is, profit and loss, at the recommended 2% plan that he advises people to follow, or his members to follow. He hasn't got a clue where he is. Now, hopefully, he can maybe take this sheet, and for once, he'll actually know exactly where he is in relation to this. But look, for people who are thinking of joining his service, or people who are currently with his service, I'm not here to tell you don't join or stop your subscription. I'm just here to say, consider everything that's been discussed in this video. Consider all the points and make an informed decision off the back of that, of whether you trust this guy with your money, because it's not just a £50 sub fee that you lose. Okay, I mean, he puts it for, oh, it's risk free, I'll give you a full refund. Yeah, he does give you a full refund, but if you joined in June, guess what? You're nearly £1,000 down, £967 down. You might get your £50 back. You're still £917 down if you started at a £2,000 betting bank. And if you stay with him into July, you've got to make that 917 up before you start even seeing a profit. The biggest thing he mentions, and this is the last thing I'll put out on here, is this 2%. You lose less on the way down. That is correct. You lose less on the way down. But guess what? When you get down to this sort of level, yeah, the winning runs, guess what? You start staking up again. But it's at a slower pace. And this is the thing he doesn't mention. At a slower pace, if you've got to make 917 quid up and you're only betting £20 a point, you've got to have a fantastic sun run like January, February, March in order to get back to level and start making profit again. And these are the things he doesn't highlight and people need to consider. Now, I've rattled on for long enough here. I hope this video has been useful. I appreciate how long it's been. But absolutely, I feel like everything I've stated I needed to say, and there's such a lot. There's such a lot that I've had to point out here. So I hope people haven't been too bored by it. I will do a summary slide at the end of this as well, just to give a few good points. There are a few points that I think are good, but the majority is bad. What I've highlighted here, the lies, um, the well, look, we've seen the video, so yeah. I will leave this here. I'm going to do a summary page. I'll leave all the links and everything else in the description. Please, please, please download these spreadsheets for yourself and filter through if you're that way inclined. But please take all the red flags here on board. I'm not here to sway you, but at the same time, I think there's enough here to definitely make people think twice about just taking Peter at face value, because he does come across as a hell of a nice guy in his videos, a knowledgeable guy sometimes, and unless you sort of know what you're talking about and you can see through the bullshit. I can see how people would get fooled, but yeah, he wouldn't be for me, put it that way.